Yeah, so let me know what questions you said you had about the general admissions process.
Yeah, so I just wanted to have like this base level understanding because I've heard different things from different people. Is it difficult for you to get fully funded offers for your PhD if you're an international student versus if you're not?
Um, so again, I am not an international student myself, so I can't answer this question with 100% certainty. Um,
Mhm.
what I believe there shouldn't be a difference in terms of schools offering fully funded spots to students based on their, citizenship status. I know that there are certain grants that you can't apply for if you are not a US citizen, like certain NIH grants. That's like
Mhm.
stuff you would apply to. So I know there are certain kind of rules and regulations around that. But in terms
Mhm.
of the school offering, if the school just has like Harvard, I think they just have like a PhD trust fund. I don't even know, or a bank of money that they can use for PhD students. And we had like, I think a third of our cohort were maybe not like a fourth to a third of our cohort were international students.
All right,
And we
that's
were all
helpful
fully
to know.
funded.
All right, that's helpful to know. So, in one of my correspondences with the professor, um, we were just chatting, and it sort of came up that certain schools are not the right fit for certain doctoral programs. So the sense that I got from that conversation was that certain schools' curriculum at the undergrad or the master's level does not prepare you well enough for doctoral studies. So I wanted to take your opinion on that. Is that something that is, frequently um, is it something that's frequently considered during admissions? Like, are there any quote unquote feeder schools to graduate admissions or anything of that sort?
Um, I don't want to discredit whatever the professor you spoke with said. To me, that's a little bit shocking to hear because I don't think there are feeder schools. I think, I mean, the people in all PhD programs that I've come across went to a very wide variety of undergrad and master's programs. It's not like everyone who was at Harvard came from another Ivy League school. In fact, that was not the case. Um, and I think it's not necessarily about like what school you came from, but just, kind of what you're able to then translate your experiences from undergrad and masters into your PhD application. I don't think grades really matter that much unless they're really terrible, then that's kind of a not good thing, but I don't think like it's not like they're comparing GPAs or anything. And once you actually get to the program, you're going to have to take around 2 years of pretty rigorous coursework within that school's program because they're going to want you to learn everything the way they did. Like I had to take epidemiology for a third or fourth time, even though I had taken it at Yale and UC Berkeley, like really great institutions. But Harvard was like, no, you still have to take this class here because it's a core course and you need to learn it this way. So I disagree with that statement, but I don't know. That's just my own, again, belief.
So I guess their comment was with regard to the sort of skills that a particular school or particular program gives you. Um, for example, if you're going for a PhD in a very methods heavy, research heavy component. I mean, all PhDs are research heavy, but um, if you have, let's say, an undergrad degree where you didn't have to write a thesis, but had to do, let's say, a capstone or a, practical internship to pass your degree. I think they were sort of referring to that aspect. I mean, I don't know. What do you think that people who don't have, let's say, an honors thesis, for example, are they disadvantaged, or do they have to like really prove that they're fit for research during their doctoral studies?
So yeah, again, this is where I also kind of disagree with the advice that you were given elsewhere. I had no master's or honors thesis when I was applying to PhD programs. I, to be quite honest, was very light on research methods and statistical skills. I recognized that quantitative methods was my weakness. And I didn't uplift that in my application, but, I didn't. Instead, what I did was I showed that, I did have all these strengths in conducting, more qualitative work or doing practice-based public health work. So I highlighted what
Mhm.
strengths I did have, and then I kind of tied that to, but this is why I'm going to get a PhD. I want training in methods. I want to be able to learn the quantitative that can then go well with these skills that I already have. So I think part of it's not just you also need to show in your personal statement in your application this desire to learn, the skills that that program is specializing in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But
Thank
yeah, I
you.
had no honors thesis
Um,
in undergrad. I did do a
mhm.
master's thesis, but it was after I had applied. So that wasn't on my application anywhere, I don't think.
All right. So, with regard to your research proposal, I mean, some statement of purposes actually ask for a particular section where you have to write about what sort of research you would want to do. And I was just wondering how specific is, or how specific is too specific, and where do you draw the line between, being open-minded enough to accept changes as they come during your, year of coursework or years of coursework, or how specific should you be to show that you're certain this is what you want to do for the next 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And I think it just depends based on like different fields, like how that might look. But I think you're right. Just finding that balance between not being too kind of tunnel visioned, while also showing that, you want to learn skills that can be applied to that topic that you think you're going to study or any emerging topics that come up in the future. So I don't really have a direct answer to that. I would really need to read your statement to like give you more specific advice, but I agree, you do need to find
Mhm.
that balance.
All right. And then in the general scheme of things, when it comes to admissions, I have heard very contradictory advice, opinions on how important the different aspects of the application are. Some people say that, if you don't have a good GRE and if a school requires a GRE, they'll basically use it as a filtering mechanism to not even read your application. Or there are some schools that don't really care about the GRE, even if they've mentioned it. They'll basically just rush to your statement of purpose, read that, and then, take things from there. So I wanted to know your opinion on this, and if there isn't a direct answer, that's all right.
Yeah, so again, this is my hunch. I don't have any proof of this, but I would say it's the latter. I definitely think that the statement of purpose matters a lot more. That is kind of the first thing that people gravitate to and read. Um, the GRE, I think, is more of a like just a check mark that you did it, and the score is not like abominable. Like, I mean, I scored in the high 80 percentile for math and like just below 70th percentile for verbal. And then I got a pretty good write, like only like 11. I forget what it was out of. I got like 1 point off for the writing number score. So my Jerry score was like okay, but like I mean my verbal score was pretty bad. And it still got me in everywhere. So that's kind of why I don't think like the threshold is very high. They just might want to make sure it's not like really, 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 really low.
All right. And I think this is going to be my last question. Um, how many, I've the only piece of advice that I've seen consistently throughout the questions that I've asked people is that you should apply to as many programs as you can because PhD admissions are very idiosyncratic. They are very random, so you really don't know what you're getting into. So I guess my question was, how many PhD applications is just an insane amount. Like you should not go overboard. And then there's the sweet spot of, I don't know, a X amount of applications that should, do you good if you've a decent, academic profile, decent work experience.
So I love this question. And you're right. The advice, I agree with the advice in this case that you were given, because it's the advice I give and so many people and throughout all my videos is to apply broadly, like apply to as many. It's not even just the number of programs, but the types or like the types of schools. Like do not only apply to you know, Ivy League schools or super top ranked schools because like you said, it's idiosyncratic, it's random, it's a numbers game. So make sure you apply to a wide variety of types of schools. And I applied to 10 schools. I thought that was pretty reasonable for me. Most would say that's a little bit on the higher end. So I would say like probably 10 to 12 is like the upper limit. I think 7 to 8 is probably like in the middle range, and then anything less than five, it's like you really only want to go to those schools.
All right. That is fair. That's a good deduction. So one of the people that I know is applying to, I think, 23 schools, and I thought that was a tad too much. And it's like this craziness comes over you and you see someone else applying to 23 schools. They're like, oh my God, I should also apply to 23 schools. But oh wait, that is a little crazy. So what's the lowest number of schools that I should safely apply to in the hopes of getting at least into 2 to 3 programs so that you have a choice at the end. But yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for that. Thank you.
I mean, I would apply to as many as you can. That's like kind of the way I would phrase it. And also because it's not just about like I guess once you kind of get your base application done, each application
Mm,
or each school you apply to after that, like the amount of work is not the same as like getting that sort of first base application done because most of the application materials are all pretty similar. So it's not like a
mm,
ton of work to add another school on your list, but it does mean you have to tweak all the materials. It does mean that you should try to reach out and network with someone there. And it does mean you have to pay an extra application fee. So, like, those are definitely things to consider as you add more schools to your list.
yeah, definitely. Well, those were all my questions. Thank you so much for taking out the time to answer them.